And I think we're live. So I have Deconverted Man here, and
Deconverted Man here,
as he can say so better than I can. Well, anyway, we're just going to talk about, I don't know, crap. What we were talking about, a God for the atheist. I was commenting on my channel, and he's way out there, so we'll just leave him back in the boonies.
Logic and skepticism and all that.
Let's talk about lobsters. What is the whole deal with the lobster thing?
No, let's not. I regret that meme. I don't know how that.
You don't know? It just is.
No, it just came into existence, and I've stopped questioning it. But well, maybe because it rhymes with logic, sort of. No, it doesn't really even rhyme, but it has the same letter of L, and so it's all connected.
I was about to put them dots together. Yeah, okay. I should have realized that right away.
Yeah.
Well, what's your story? Where did you when did you start getting into the skepticism part of it? Was it when you were still a believer, or after you, or was it kind of a combination, sort of?
Well, my deconversion was when I was about 32-ish, and I had been into apologetics as a Christian because I was doing a YouTube channel as a Christian called Infinite Hope, and I wanted to talk about God and explore my faith on YouTube, and I kept getting all these pesky questions from these atheists and skeptics asking me to prove everything, and I thought, well, I'll prove it to you guys. I just have to, find the proof. And I remember somebody saying to me at one point, well, we have the proof, but even if we gave it to them, they still wouldn't believe it. And I'm like, well, then just give it to them, and there you go. At least you've proven that point, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here's your proof. Oh, you didn't believe it. Okay, well, we gave it to you. There is, moving on. So I thought, well, I'll do it then. Nobody seems to want to do this for whatever reason. So I looked into the history of the Bible, because that's the religion I was in, was Christianity. I looked at the Old Testament, the New Testament, the dates of when things were written, what we could know for sure about when it was written, who wrote it, which we have no idea. You get into Q theory and all this stuff when you get into that stuff. But then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't tell me anything. I need to know if it's true. So I looked at the archaeology, and I found a lot. I found that we had discovered Noah's Ark at least 5 times. And we had discovered chariots at the bottom of different rivers a few times. There's the story when he parts the sea and the chariots run through. So all these stories I kept finding, and what the weird thing about it was that the Christians that claimed to make the finds, one of two things would happen. Either they would take all the evidence and say, well, you guys can't look at it because we know that you'll destroy it, you evil, not Christian people, you. So all the evidence would suddenly go missing, or whatever it is they had was a forgery, and the experts pointed out that it was a forgery. There was this one well that if they could get it dated right, it would be a significant find. And in archaeology, forgeries are high-priced, high-demand stuff. And the best way to date a well is with the coins that you find in it. So the experts had come, the expert archaeologists had come. Now, this is, teams of archaeologists, not just one, but, several different teams had already looked at this particular well and found nothing of significance. It was just another well. Along comes this all-Christian archaeologist team, and suddenly there's coins at the well that just happen to be just the right date that they needed for this to be Bethlehem. and they made the announcement, and then the coins vanished. Somebody has stolen them. You can't look at ours that we have because you'll manipulate the data. We don't trust you. We're going to keep this up in lock and key. So again, forgeries and fakery, and nobody else is allowed to look at the evidence but us. That was the repeated motif, and I thought, you don't lie if you have the truth. You don't need to lie. So that's all I found was again and again things like that, where the evidence was just purely being manufactured, and that there's a huge tourism trade going on in Jerusalem now, where people go on walks where Jesus walked, and they have no idea where. I mean, and you have different churches that claim to have different disciples buried underneath them, but of course nobody's allowed to look at the bone. Well, you might be able to see the bones, but you can't examine the bones. Somebody's allowed to do that.
Well, yeah.
So not that doing that would necessarily give us any additional information. Yeah. But again, not allowed to study this stuff. So I couldn't find much of anything there. Digging deeper was more of the same, where different archaeological finds had yielded nothing, and then the Christian group comes along and suddenly it yields something, or somebody makes a claim. And then I found evidence that certain stories were impossible because of the time and the date. The Egyptians, for example, did not own as many slaves as reported in the Bible. They had some slaves, but not as many as the numbers would indicate. So you could say, well, it's just the numbers wrong, so what? But I'm looking for ways to prove that this is true to those pesky atheists. So over the course of the year, as I dove into looking for all this evidence and finding nothing, I said, okay, so there's no evidence. Maybe this thing that I learned about called apologetics can help out. So I turned to that, which is all these arguments that any theist can do, but by and large, apologetics has, that word is something that you closely associate with Christianity, even though it can be for anything. You could be an atheist apologist per se. So I looked at that and I thought, okay, well, here we go. I'm saved. So what? We didn't have the evidence. We have these great arguments. Oh, this William Lane Craig, he's just, man, he can talk really well. He knows what he's doing. And maybe I should learn this thing, the system that they're using called logic. So I started to do that. That was a mistake. And it was a mistake because, well, I learned logic, and I learned that the arguments that they're making were full of logical fallacies. And I'm like, well, this is a problem because I lost my evidence, and now I'm seeing that the arguments aren't working because the logic's not there. And the only thing I had left was just pure faith at that point. And I had to ask if that was enough. And, in this particular hour of need, when I asked for God for help and nothing happened at all, I realized, okay, just pure faith isn't enough for me. And that was the end of that. And I it was very emotionally turbulent for me at the time. And for weeks later, I had nightmares about mortality because, looking back, I know why now, but I didn't at the time. It was my brain was reordering itself to accept mortality for the first time ever, because as a theist, I believed in an afterlife. Well, without that, I didn't have an afterlife. So that meant when it's over, it's over. And so my brain had to go through the process of reordering itself of what that meant. And
whether or not you're a nihilist or something like that, you mean? Yeah. Or
well, no, I mean, because most of my life I had thought, you know, when you die, you have an extra life, so to speak. You're not really dead. You're dead here, but you're not really dead, you know?
Yeah.
So these nightmares were about death and dying. And so I'd wake up, you know, I'd you know, be hit by a truck, and I'd wake up screaming, or it's just suddenly it would all go black and this huge noise would happen, and I'd wake up screaming. And it was all, you know, now I understand what it was. At the time I didn't, but it was my brain trying to work through what mortality was really like, or could really be like. What would it be to not be? And my brain couldn't really figure that out for a while. And then when it did, those nightmares ended. But, you know, the end of the day, then I shut down my YouTube channel of Infinite Hope, of course, which I kind of regret doing because I hadn't saved every single video I had. So I have a number of videos from it still on my computer, but a lot of them are gone for good.
That's kind of a bummer, actually.
Yeah, you know, well, at the time I was like, you know, whatever, I'm done with this, and I was very angry. The angry atheist that the Christians will sometimes summon as a construct straw man of this person that's angry at God. When you first, well, for me, I can't speak for everyone. When I first deconverted, that feeling was kind of there, this anger about, you know, really feeling like I had been lied to or lied to myself, and, you know, angry that, you know, why can't you really exist, God, kind of thing. And, you know, now I have to deal with mortality and it being final, and I have to admit that I was wrong, and you know, a lot of hubris had to die out. So it was a difficult time, but after I got through that, you know, I labeled myself as skeptic, and I dove more into logic and then started doing a Deconverted Man and analyzing arguments for logical fallacies. I figured, you know, this is the logic bit was what really pushed me over the edge. So I'll do logic and try to show people the illogic of these arguments that people are making. And maybe there's a Christian out there that will be like me and hear that, and that will also deconvert them, and so on and so forth.
No, I was just trying to figure out how to. There, I got the chat up now. I can see what people are saying.
Oh, yeah. Let me know, because I have no idea what people are saying.
Does anybody else have a question out there?
Who's this jerk? Why is he talking?
Let's see. Hey, Prophet of God is on.
Is that lobster guy? Hey, Prophet of Zod. You son of a... Okay.
Anybody got some questions?
Nope.
Nope. Nobody's got nothing yet.
Nobody cares. As expected. But, you know, I've learned an awful lot even more about theology and the Bible's history. The camels weren't domesticated at the time that the writings were said to have happened. The camels would not have been domesticated. So every time when they talk about using camels in the Bible, well, that you just have to remove that now, because you can't. They're not domesticated yet. Whoops. So, or you have to change when the time is supposed to happen. But see, the writer was, you know, by then, whoever was writing it at that time, camels had been domesticated. I want to say is 2C the earliest? Oh boy, I don't know.
American camels or Egyptian camels?
Well, there are no American camels yet.
I had to go there.
Back in that time, you know, it would be the only camels that would be there. But no, so I want to say whatever the earliest manuscript is, I want to say 10 BC AC, and I'm going to get it wrong because I don't have it right in front of me. But whatever that is, Job is actually, I believe, the oldest of the books of the Bible that we know about. So it's like Job is like the oldest, and then Genesis is later dated. So, but whoever was writing, the camels were already domesticated at a time. So there you go. Whenever they needed a beast of burden, they would just say, well, yeah, camel, sure. Why not? You know? So that's just made whole cloth. So you have to get rid of that, you know, and my hero, Dr. Jordan Peterson, if you haven't watched this guy's lectures, you're missing out. But he has been doing this biblical series, and he has a very interesting way of looking at the stories of the Bible. And as cool as that is, it's like, yes, but so what? It's a better way of looking at these stories than the fundamentalist way. That's for sure. But other than that, it's kind of like, it's not. And it's interesting. A lot of people think that he's converting atheists, and I'm like, no, he's not. And he's not giving evidence or repeated tests or anything that the typical atheist wants. The typical skeptic has always maintained, I want evidence, I want tests, I want something tangible.
Yeah.
And that means that it would be in the realm of science to kind of say, here's God. And there is this love-hate relationship with science that a lot of apologists have, because on one hand, they're using arguments that, if true, would mean that there would be something testable about God within science, because logic is logic conforms to the universe as we understand it. So that means that if you had a valid and sound argument, or as I like to call it, logically coherent argument, I don't know why I call it something different than what it is, but whatever, because I like words. That if you had a valid and sound argument for God, that would mean that you had something that comported with reality, which means you would have something that you could test, which means that God is testable, which means that at least part of God would not be supernatural. But God's supposed to be supernatural, so there can never be anything that would be testable about God. So the fine-tuning argument, for example, if that really worked for an argument, it's still not about God. It's like it points at God, supposedly. So all these arguments just point, supposedly, at God, because you can't have an argument about the phenomenon in question. Because if you did, then that would mean it's scientific. And then if it was scientific, you wouldn't need an argument.
I always liken it to like the ring around the rosy kind of little, whatever that rhyme is or whatever, ring around the rosy, pocket full of posy, and it kind of all falls down at the end, you know.
That song is about disease that wiped out a bunch of people.
Yeah, I realize that.
It's great children's song.
Yeah. Oh, it keeps you out of the rat poop, I guess. There was a question here. PvP asked, how do you engage people who are theists, Christians, but absolutely refuse to research the historicity of the religion?
Well, you know, that's a huge problem. You know, how do you engage anyone is a question of itself. I would say that one thing I've tried, but it hasn't worked yet, is to ask, do you believe that the Bible is the most important book ever? To which they'll say yes. Say, okay, well then I'm sure you've memorized it then, right? They'll probably say no to that. Very, very few have. Okay, well, at least have you looked at the history of it? It's the most important book ever, right? So at least you've looked at the history. No? Okay, well then I guess it's not really the most important book ever. And the idea is supposed to kind of guilt trip them into actually looking at their own darn book.
Yeah.
But the other half of the, and it hasn't worked yet, but I don't know of a different tactic to try to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do, other than guilt. But yeah, the historicity of the Bible, they by and large, if you want to remain a particular type of theist, you'll have to not look into it. Other types of theists, like more modern theists, that would say, it's fine, it's not literal, it's supposed to be this sort of story that's about God, but it's not meant to be taken like it really happened in history per se. Someone like that can look into the history, whereas somebody that's like, no, it's literal and the Bible says that settles it, they're never going to look at the history of the Bible ever.
Hey, guess who's here? Sorry, a God for the Atheist just showed up in the comments.
Okay. That should be good.
What does he say? The very first time I spoke to God, God told me, you cannot prove I exist. Belief is a choice. Do you believe in the blah, 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 in the spirit and teachings of Jesus to love truth and right and others or not?
Well, it's interesting. The belief is a choice idea. It's not a choice. Otherwise, can you believe that I'm Santa Claus right now? Yes or no? Just believe. If it's a choice, then the answer should be yes. That you could just decide that I'm Santa Claus right now if belief is a choice, or you could believe that I'm a lobster if belief is a choice. So is belief really a choice? And if it is, then I'm a lobster, and you should say, yes, I believe that you're a lobster. Are you willing to say that you believe I'm a lobster? If not, well, maybe you're a liar and you'll say it, but if not, then belief is not a choice. And I would also say, try to not believe that there's a wall and swing your fist at it full speed. Now, if you can turn off your belief that there's a wall, then your hand should stop and you would break your hand, but you wouldn't know why. But that's not how the brain works. So yeah. you're gonna continue to believe that there's a wall, even if you're trying to say there isn't a wall, and you can punch a wall to break your fist, and deliberately, you can force yourself to do that. But you're not gonna stop believing in that wall during that or after that process. It's just not possible to do. It's interesting that God would tell you it couldn't be proven, but then that's not proof of God, that God told you anything. Because if that's proof to you that there's a God, then God lied. If it's not proof to you that that's God, then you have no proof of God. So it's a nice little paradox, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
I'll kind of string that together to a antidote about my own history with God as a Christian, and this was when I was 8 or 9 years old. So, yeah, take it for what you will. I recall writing the word God in the dirt with a stick, and then I prayed over it to God, and I said, "Okay, God, if you're real, then this will still be here tomorrow." And I went to bed. The next day I got up and it was gone. And I prayed to God and I was like, okay, well, now I know that you did that because you know that would irritate me. And now I'm going to prove that you're real just to show you, that I'm going to do that. Haha. So the thing about that is, no matter what, the prayer worked, quote unquote. If the word God was still there, then there's a God. If the word God's not there, then it's because God's testing me. So I already have my answer no matter what. And that's why it's not going, no matter what happens, there's no actual answer that would resolve in me not believing in God, because at the time I wanted to believe in God. It's just I needed some sort of little test, at least in my head, that would make me feel like there was a God. And so the backwards thinking of God understands who I am. That's what I've been told as a kid. And God knows that I'm the sort of person that would go after him because he deliberately erased his name out of the dirt. Well, I did. I pursued that for a long time, spiritually speaking. But then I actually did try to prove God when I was 32, and then I became a skeptic. So I guess that's what God wanted for me all along.
Yeah, there you have it. It's a vicious circle.
There you have it. But yeah, the prayer doing anything besides making you feel a little bit better about things.
Yeah.
Because meditation absolutely does work, and you can meditate without prayer, or you can think positive thoughts if you want to, which is pretty much prayer. But to think that the reason why theists can say, well, prayer, you always get an answer. Well, you do, but it's yes or no or wait. Well, that's an answer for everything and anything. So even if you didn't pray, you're still going to get yes, no, or wait. So it's a untestable hypothesis, that there is no failure to that test. It's similar to the Islam, I should say, not Muslim, because they're not all Muslims. Islam's the religion, Muslim's the race, whatever. Islam belief in the Quran, there's this verse that, the proof that the Quran is divinely written is that nobody can write a book like it. And, well, what does that mean? Like, you mean like the way the verses are structured? Because I can do that. And other people have done this too. No, well, do you mean like you could write if I write the exact Quran from memory, then I've written a book like it? Because, well, I've written the same book. So what does it mean, like it? So because of the vagueness, there's no way to disprove that you can't do that. So it's a test that cannot be completed. And there's a lot of things like that for faith, because to maintain that sort of faith, you have to invent something that makes it seem like, yeah, it really works, even though it doesn't. Whereas a more honest approach to faith would be to say faith is belief without any evidence at all, and that's okay. That's what I have about this particular subject. And there's not an argument I can make. There's not a test that can be performed. This is just something I believe. That's a very honest approach to it. And it's understandable because people believe in things, and especially if we're taught to believe in that thing. But the idea of God can arise within an individual or a group spontaneously for different reasons. Either somebody had a hallucination, or something in their brain went off and they felt like it was something weird they couldn't explain. Or you could even I like this story of the rock throwing God, which is that way back when in Africa somebody is walking along and a rock falls on their head, and they look around and say, well, who did that? And they don't see anyone. It's just, maybe see a few animals, but they don't see a person. Only a person can throw a rock. And they realize, well, it hit them on the top of their head, so it came from the sky. So there must be a person in the sky that threw that, but they don't see anyone. So they go back to the tribe and they said, this invisible person from the sky threw a rock on my head. And before you know it, that becomes the rock-throwing God over time as that story gets retold and exaggerated. Well, the rock just came from, a volcano somewhere else that erupted and threw it miles into the air. That sort of thing can happen. And you just happen to be hit by it. But the tendency that humans have to assume agency, because we automatically, the first thing assumed is it's a who, not a what happened. It's a who threw that rock, not a what threw that rock. It's just automatically ingrained. So it's very easy to see how the idea of God would develop within a group and evolve throughout time with us, and we would carry it with us as a species. So I think that that's understandable. And if you are a theist that says, well, I want to believe in God, well, fine, but just accept that part of it too. And the theists that, say the earth is 6,000 years young. Well, if your God requires you to deny reality, then your God can't possibly be real. So if you're saying that the world isn't 4.54 billion years old, the universe is 13 billion years old, then your God can't really exist because it's requiring you to deny aspects of reality. And so you're going to have to change your theology. You can still believe in God. It's just you're going to have to look at God in an even more broader sense than you have been. And perhaps you've been engaged in Bibleology or doctrineology, where you're worshiping the Bible or the teachings rather than the God per se. Maybe there is a God, but to get to that God, you have to accept reality the way it is and discard these false teachings. There's even warnings in the Bible about false prophets. So, maybe the pastor that you have right now, anyone that's a theist that happens to be listening, maybe they're a false prophet. Have you considered that? If people that are all these scientists are not just, you picture a bunch of people in lab coats. Well, that's wrong, of course. You're talking about people from all different nationalities, different political systems, different religious systems, who would disagree with each other about just about anything else, but they all agree that the Earth is 4.54 billion years old. Oh, conspiracy theory. Well, wait a minute. Why? They have every reason to disagree with each other. Why this thing? Well, somebody's paying them. No, who would pay them? No, if one government would pay them, then the other government would say, wait, if we release the truth, that will hurt that government. So we will make sure that our scientists don't go along with that. So it's, you can't just dismiss that, it's, what is it, 98, 99% of all scientists agree with the age of the Earth and biological evolution. And the 1% is all creationists. So, so there you go. Uh-oh. How long have I been off? Yeah, that was a good rant. Oh, well.
Too bad nobody heard it but me.
Yeah. God didn't want me to finish that conversation.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Hey, yeah, God smited me, and I was smoked.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. So what did you miss? Where was I?
I don't remember because I was sitting there.
What was I saying?
I don't know.
I had this brilliant... I deconstructed God and made it more palatable for myself, and then God smote me, and I disappeared, and I didn't know, and I was still talking. It was great.
I could smell the sulfur.
Oh, well. Okay, so I don't know what I was saying. I don't know when you cut off. Or
I don't know. I can't remember either, but
at any rate, I'll switch gears a little bit because I was trying to get the theist to be more reasonable about God with that speech I was giving that might not end up on YouTube.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Well.
It might have gotten recorded though, but I think I actually got signal here somewhere. Something happened.
Okay. Well, I don't know. We'll see when it goes live what happens. I'll go with the flip side of that, which is the devil. The devil has no reason to not give me evidence of its existence. So why doesn't the devil just give me some evidence that it exists?
Yeah.
And one thing, and somebody has said this lately, that if you're doing this conversation Matt Dillahunty had on the Atheist Experience once, but I totally have had this conversation myself. If you're being persecuted, you're doing the right thing as a Christian, because the devil's trying to hurt you. So if you're getting prosecuted all the time and bad things are happening, that's because you're doing God's work. So if everything is going good for you, then you must not be doing God's work. So the only way to feel like you're doing good is to be miserable.
Yeah.
That's not good theology.
That's like Mother Teresa, I think, isn't it? Trials and tribulations kind of thing. You got to suffer to get to heaven.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everybody holds her up as she let people suffer and die without medicine because
she thought that. And you know what? I wasn't raised religious, but my grandma was strict Catholic or whatever, and she was always praying and thinking that he had the suffering crap or whatever. It's like, yeah, whatever, grandma.
Maybe it's the pleasure. Why not go for that rather than the suffering? Yeah. But there's different ways. It has to do with
I'll go ahead.
Yeah, there's different ways of thinking about God, and then your religion then ties into that. And ultimately, you have to decide which path to take. Because if you want to believe in God, I don't have a problem with that per se. It's when you deny reality on top of believing in God is when I have a problem with it. Because you shouldn't deny that the Earth is 4.54 billion years old. You should agree with that because that's a fact. And if you're saying it's not true, then your God can't be true. Because if you're tying it together with something that isn't really real, well, then your God can't possibly be real. So why not just accept reality as it is and tie your God into that reality? I don't know, but
yeah, the thing is, for me, it's not like just one thing saying that God isn't possible. It's a lot of different things from different directions that kind of contradict a whole bunch of other crap that the apologetics try to say. And
right.
Too much.
If they were honest about it, their theology would be a lot more palatable, and they wouldn't convince the skeptic because you can't give the skeptic what they want.
Yeah.
But you can at least make them not irritated at you for lying and about how reality is. If you want to say, well, I believe in God, well, I'm not going to debate you because a belief statement isn't something to debate. I believe in leprechauns. Okay, great. No debate there. Oh, leprechauns are real. Now we have a debate because you've made a statement that you have to support. You've made a statement about reality. So then you have the burden to show that leprechauns are in fact real. So do that.
There are no more ice giants. Odin said he'd get rid of them, right?
Yeah, they all melted because of global warming.
Oh dear.
So there's no more evidence of them. They're all melted. So, but I totally saw one myself once. So just believe me,
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, lobsters exist. So that's all I know.
They hang out with Charlie Tuna.
What?
I was thinking Chicken of the Sea or whatever. I don't know. Never mind.
I don't know.
That brings up Jessica Simpson, and there's a whole bunch of other crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, apologetics just never.
Well, the whole point of apologetics is to give the more intellectual theist something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Because you can't give the skeptic empirical evidence because it's not there. You can't give them any test to do because it's not there. So you can do these mental gymnastics and make yourself feel good, and it's never going to convince the skeptic because they probably understand logic well enough to understand that there's something wrong with that argument. Even if they don't know exactly what it is, they can still go, I don't know about that. Or they can say, well, even if that's true, it's still not a proof of God. I had a debate with From the Grave to the Flame Ministry on YouTube, back and forth, video to video debate. And we had agreed upon the definitions of words. And I had asked him pre-debate, and I'd said, here's what empirical evidence is. Do you agree with this definition? It is visible evidence, not just necessarily with the naked eye, but any mechanical device that allows you to see the phenomenon in question. And he was fine with that definition. But when I asked for empirical evidence of God, he went to say, well, you know, here's this argument, and here's this, and here's that. And I'm like, that's not empirical evidence of God. That's, if it was true, it'd be empirical evidence of that thing that you're talking about, but not of God. And I said, if I ask you for empirical evidence of a baseball, you can show me a baseball. That's what I want you to do with God. You can't do that, but apologetics makes you feel like you're doing something. So it's really for the believer. It's not for the skeptic. It's not for the atheist.
Hey, you know what? Oh, sorry. I just got my chat back up again, and it looks like we only lost 7 seconds before somebody said so.
Okay.
Woohoo.
Cool. So my whole wonderful speech still exists.
It's got to be. Well, 7 seconds of it's gone.
Laud be praised. Laud is, of course, the lobster original deity, which we lobsterists know that's real. Yes. Stupid turtleists, however, believe that a turtle created everything. Yeah, right. They don't even have anything that they can grab hold of stuff. How would a turtle make stuff? Jeez, bunch of idiots. We know that the lobster, of course, did everything. If you don't believe me, I have a book, and you can read it. So.
Oh, looks like they're having a good little conversation in the chat room there too.
Okay, great. What's the bet? I can't see it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where, because I lost.
Yeah, I don't know what to click. It's not in here.
You'd have to go to.
Yeah, I have to do all sorts of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to do steps I don't want to do. So you just have to tell me if something I need to pay attention to happens.
Yeah, they're just going back and forth with our nice little gem, a God for the atheist there.
Right.
He's trying hard.
Well, you know, God told them that you couldn't prove God, which means that God either lied, because if that's proof of God, then that means that God lied when he said that you can't prove God, or when God told them that there's no proof of God, then you have no proof of God, because there can't be paradox.
Yeah, he's not convincing me of anything.
God told me there's no proof of God. That is a mind trip. That's like Pinocchio saying, "My nose will now grow." Well,
there you have it. If there's no proof of God, he must not exist. So
yeah, I mean, well, but God could
take it all the way to
God could never tell you that, because God telling you that would be proof that there's a God to you. So it's a paradox. So God can't tell you that.
Wow.
It's like Pinocchio saying that his nose will grow. You know, if Pinocchio, when he lies, his nose grows, right? So if he says, "My nose will now grow," well, that's a lie, because his nose shouldn't grow. But if he's telling the truth, that his nose will grow, but it can't grow because he's not lying. But he is lying, so it will grow, but it can't grow because he's not lying, but he is lying. Got it?
Oh, the tangled webs we weave.
I could play with paradoxes all day long.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you just start on one, you're there forever, right?
Yeah, well, that's the nature of a paradox.
Yeah.
You know, either lobsters exist or I'm not God. Lobsters exist, therefore I'm God. See?
Perfect. The premises are great.
Yeah. P1 is lobsters exist. Of course, you always start with that.
Yep.
Premise 2, if lobsters don't exist, I'm not God. So the conclusion, which is inevitable, is if lobsters exist, so I have to be God then. So there you go. Can't say I'm wrong. My logic's flawless. Nobody can point out a logical fallacy. 10 points for anybody that does, by the way. There's at least 5 with premise 2 alone.
I've been right my whole life, according to me.
Yeah, well, when I was wrong, I thought I was right, so it counts.
It still counts as being right.
Yeah. If I go left 3 times, I'll be right, and they'll all use it out. Yeah.
Was that me or you?
That was me or you? What?
I heard some noise in the background.
Yeah, ignore that.
Oh, okay.
It was my lobster talking.
Ah. Well, put them in a pot of boiling water.
Right. So other than belief in God, what else is there to talk about as pesky skeptics? I've tried my hand, of course, at politics, which
boy, I hate politics.
It doesn't work well for me because I try to take a stance that I don't agree with and then argue that position, because how else can I really understand what I really believe in other than to argue the position that I don't hold? And I watch a lot of people who I don't agree with, so I don't get into an echo chamber, because I want to hear different ideas and think about, okay, well, there's some point to that. I can see how you could think that, and I can see how that might even be true. So, yeah, I can kind of agree with that to some extent, even if I don't agree with it all the way. And there's the analyzing of what's happening to our culture is extremely difficult. I thought, oh, this will be, it's not easy, but there is a definite turmoil, and it's unclear what the result will be of that. But I worry about it. So
yeah, I don't know, all the politics. It seems like the last 2 years just really took where I don't even understand it anymore. There's so many new labels and so many. I guess
there's an infinite way of being. That's one way to think about it. Oh, I'm dead, I think. Did I die again? Oh, I'm dead. All right. Maybe that's the universe trying to tell me we've talked long enough. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know how long we went, so.
Looks like 47 minutes.
That's pretty good. That's almost like a 1 minute skeptic right there.
Pretty much, yeah. Excellent.
All right. Any other any questions you had for me, or any?
I don't have any, but I'm trying to see if anybody else has got one here real quick.
Come on, throw something at me. Here, I got one for you, since you like music.
Okay. All right.
Do musical notes exist?
They are a man-made construct.
So they don't exist. They can't hold one, but they exist. Yeah. So how do they exist then if they don't really exist?
Yeah, well, that's a deep thought experiment there.
Well, now, if your brain is physical, right? So your thoughts are physical. So the thought of the note is a physical property. So in that sense, the notes exist in a physical way, but not in the same physical way as anything else. But there is no need to say that there's a non-physical needed to have musical notes.
The actual sound because it does create vibrations, it does have a physical that's attribute.
Right, but that's not a music note. That's just the sound that we
note itself. Yeah.
Yeah, we assign the note to describe that sound, right? And we could have said anything to make that happen. So but but music is is interesting that we can produce something that invokes emotion.
Yeah,
There's something almost spiritual about that. Although I don't like the word spiritual, but it makes you feel a certain way, man.
Well, I mean, I look at the mega churches and all that when they sit there playing music for like 2 hours before they even go around slapping people around on the forehead, like.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a concert.
Get everybody all worked up and
right, because otherwise nobody would come. You have to entertain. I have a story about a mega church, and then I guess unless you had something more,
I don't. My brother just got here, so I think we gotta cut her down.
Screw my story then.
Screw your story. How about you keep?
I don't like that story anyways. I'm gonna shout out Prophet of Zog, Godless Cranium. He doesn't need my shout out. That guy's got like 1 million subs. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, I know.
I asked him if he wanted to do a thing, and he was like, yeah, maybe. I was like, what? You did a thing with Zod, but not me. I'm here first. I made Zod into what he is. No, wait, no, awesome. I'm just messing with Zod. I didn't. I love you, Zod. No, but
he is great.
Yeah, and Quiet Atheist and Godless Geezer and I don't know who else is on the list. Curiouser, More Curiouser, Athu presents. And yeah, whatever. Whoever else I badly shouted out last time, just pretend I did that again.
Well, we'll just put that in the description.
Because I don't care about my channel. I'm just gonna shout out other channels. That'll be my channel from now on. I'll just be like, don't watch this guy. Who cares about me?
Everybody, don't watch D-Man. Just
yeah, I'm sure I'll do an hour analysis on King Crocoduck's video, but
there we go.
That will be next. I'm going to analyze Kent Hovind versus KC. I don't know how long it will be, but it's probably going to be pretty long.
Kentucky Fried Chicken or Red Lobster? That is the ongoing question.
I think Kent Hovind might have a few logical fallacies.
Just a couple.
Possible?
It's a possibility. Yeah.
I listened to the debate, and I'm pretty sure I detected a few. But I think I'm going to take a different approach with this video. So hopefully it will be entertaining. And
Ken Ham, he's pretty much resorting to the tools of the loser by calling everybody names nowadays on Twitter. So
okay, yeah, well,
that's all he's got left.
That's the desperation of last resort.
Yeah, yep, it is.
So I'll say this: if we don't have empirical evidence or repeatable tests, we should at least have a logically coherent argument, and unless and until we do, we should be skeptical of the conclusions.
Yes. Well said.
All right. That's it. I'm done. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace out, brother.
Subscribe to Deconverted Man. Make sure you send him money. Wait, we don't ask for money anymore. Shut up. I want money.
Send it to me instead.
Send it to Johnny Drivebye or Zod or somebody else. I don't know. I don't need money. I'm good now.
Cool. All righty. Yeah, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. This was fun. Hopefully my awesome speech is in there. I'm going to be annoyed if it isn't. Oh, well.
I sure hope so.
People are like, yeah, shut up.
I have enough freaking trouble with this crap, so.
Yeah, that's all right.
All righty then. All right, everybody. That was Deconverted Man, and this is another drive-by.
Beep, beep.
Out of here.
Bang, 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 bang.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Oh.
Bye. All right. End the podcast.
I'm trying.
End it. Hit the button.
I can't find the Hangout page.
Brad is right there. Hit the button.
Help.
Hit the X. Alt F4. Do something. I'm out of material. End it already.
Oh, geez, before Josh Fahrenstein gets in here.
And